My entire life, I've been very apolitical. Not only, of course, required because I was a active duty general and also a National Guard officer. It's something where ever since 2016, where I've seen what Trump has done, how he has treated people, how he has dealt with crises, I've been just absolutely opposed to such a very dictatorial, strongman, bully type of a leader. And so it was easy for me to add my name to this list of those 10 officers and NCOs.
Hi again, everybody. It's 5 o'clock in New York now. We're at a remarkable and unprecedented point in our history and our politics. The staunchest of conservatives are coming out and announcing their plans to vote for a Democratic candidate for president. And the kinds of people who usually remain steadfastly apolitical are being driven to speak out of their sense of duty to the country. That was retired Major General Randy Manner, one of 10 retired generals and admirals who just signed on to an extraordinary letter calling the ex-president and current GOP nominee a danger to our national security and our democracy. These men and women who served our nation in high-ranking positions are emphatically endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris, calling her, quote, the best and only presidential candidate in this race who is fit to serve as our commander-in-chief. They underscore Harris's record this way, quote, she has demonstrated her ability to take on the most difficult national security challenges in the Situation Room and on the international stage, from rallying our allies against Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine to standing shoulder to shoulder with our allies in the Indo-Pacific against China's provocative actions, to advancing U.S. leadership on space and artificial intelligence. She is a steadfast supporter of service members, veterans, their families, their caregivers, and survivors, as opposed to her opponent, about whom they say this, quote, at his core, he does not understand selfless service and sacrifice, and he should never be allowed to again serve as commander-in-chief of the greatest fighting force in the world. Meanwhile, someone who understands service and sacrifice on a very personal level, Gold Star father Kaiser Khan says the danger a Trump presidency poses now is even greater than 4 years ago. Listen.
In 234-year history of United States, there had not been a president or vice president convicted of felony charges. Here we have Donald Trump, and that is where I say that in 4 years it has gotten worse. Donald Trump is convicted of 34 felonies, and he owes $554 million fine, monetary fine, that he still owes. It has gotten worse, and he has announced it in his own words that I will be a dictator on day one.
As we alluded to at the top, the appeal of the current vice president has become so far-reaching that former Vice President Dick Cheney and his daughter, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, are throwing their support behind the Democratic ticket for the first time in their lives. To them, there's only one candidate who puts this country first.
If you look at Vice President Harris's speech, for example, at the Democratic convention, it is a speech that Ronald Reagan could have given. It's a speech that George Bush could have given. It's very much an embrace and an understanding of the exceptional nature of this great nation, a love of America, a recognition that America is a special place.
It's where we start the hour with some of our favorite experts and friends. Retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Steve Anderson is here with us. He is one of the senior military officials who signed that letter backing Vice President Harris. Also joining us, former Republican Congressman, MSNBC political analyst David Jolly's here, and we convinced Claire McCaskill to stick around. General, I start with you. We've been talking about what the media can do a better job at, and it is because when folks like yourself come out and step into politics, it's extraordinary. And there's a flattening of 9 years of Trump that makes it difficult to articulate what a big deal it is for all of you who signed this letter to speak out. Can you put some of that in context for us?
Well, thank you, Nicole. It's really an honor to be here. I just simply got to highlight what you said about how exceptional this moment is. I mean, I'm a retired Army general officer, 31 years. I never in my entire career knew the party of my boss or any of my people, whether they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. I didn't know. I didn't care. Okay? But all of that changed for so many of us on the 6th of January. We saw what was going on. We saw the insurrection. We saw the leadership that's being provided. And really, the evil intent of Donald Trump to try to destroy our democracy and overturn an election, that caused many of us, such as myself, and you had Major General Randy Manner on earlier, a great friend of mine, and so many, the 10 signatories of this letter. And I will tell you, there's 500 folks on the National Security Leaders for America, run by Admiral Mike Smith. All of us share this incredible love for our country and our concern on what's going on. And all of us have decided the time has come now to take action. I mean, what happens, you know, if you go back 90 years and you look at what happened in Germany, how did the Nazis rise to power? It's because good people didn't take action. They were silent. They didn't step up. You know, and I talked to many of my colleagues who wish to remain on the sidelines, and I said, okay, got it, understand that. But if not now, when? I mean, are we going to wait for the jackboots to go marching down the street and the brown shirts to get rolled out and our kids signed up for, you know, Trump Youth or whatever? I mean, when do we actually step forward? So that's why we wrote this letter. We thought the time has come. We need to support Kamala Harris for many of the reasons that were just articulated in your opening segment. The comments from Liz Cheney and, of course, Adam Kinzinger at the Democratic National Convention and whatnot. I mean, we need to ensure that Donald Trump never again sets foot in the Oval Office. And perhaps the most compelling testimony to that fact is that so many of his advisors and staffers and people that served in administration, like 98%, not only won't support him, won't vote for him, but they consider him to be a threat to national security and totally unfit for office. Now is the time to step forward. So that's why I and so many of my fellow general officers, admirals, and ambassadors, senior leaders, that's why we have come forward. And we're saying, hey, look, America, please listen to us. We know what we're talking about here. I mean, I was in Afghanistan from 2016 to 2018. I saw what Donald Trump was doing over there. And I'll tell you, we've got to make sure that that man never again sets foot in the Oval Office.
When you look at what he did around January 6th, his goal was to have the U.S. military seize voting machines. And it wasn't a law that stopped him, and it sure as hell won't be a second time now that the Supreme Court gave him absolute immunity for official acts. What is he capable of doing to the military without someone like General Milley or without any men or women who say no?
Well, the problem in the military right now is that there's extremism that we've got to sort out, and we've got to, I mean, there's no place for extremism in the military, be it right, be it left, whatever. You know, and Donald Trump is trying to tap into that. And I certainly expect that in his next administration, he will declare the Insurrection Act or whatever. He will try to mobilize the military to take down his political enemies. He'll try to mobilize the legal system. You know, the Attorney General's office. Not only will he try to wipe out all the felony convictions against him and all those other felony charges that are still pending, but he will try to use the legal system to take down his political enemies as well. So, I mean, we just cannot let that happen. And so we've got to stand up right now, speak up, and say, look, enough's enough. We need to get somebody that's competent, who's professional, who treats others with dignity and respect, who brings optimism and joy and focus, who's trying to, and hope. She's trying to push America forward. Whereas Donald Trump, he wants to wallow in grievances and hatred and prejudice and revisit, you know, transgressions from the past and try to take out his political enemies. And it's just shocking what's going on. We cannot let that happen.
What is the private conversation among military families like around Trump really believing and saying out loud that anyone who serves the country and dies or is injured is a, quote, sucker and loser? That's according to his former chief of staff, General Kelly.
Yeah, John Kelly, a great man, a great leader, and so many people like him have spoken out in similar type stories. I mean, it's shocking. It's terrible. I mean, we know that he doesn't understand selfless service in the least. He's never done anything his entire life for anybody other than Donald Trump. Look at Kamala Harris. She served as Attorney General in California, state senator for 4 years. She's been the vice president. She's passed up millions and millions of dollars to be a high-speed lawyer, which she could be, because she's incredibly talented and capable. She's doing that because she loves our country. She's here to fight for Americans. She came up middle class, just like her superb vice president pick, former Command Sergeant Major Tim Waltz, by the way. I mean, these people understand America. They come from middle America. They're going to push this. They know what we need. They know what we want. They know how to really to push this country in the direction we need to go and not take it backwards like Donald Trump wants.